Hey guys, uh, this will be another video I'm gonna do about topics original sin like the last one. I was intending to put a series together, so this will be another one. This one I was going to give my take on Psalms 51:5. It's a verse that a lot of people believe means that there is a thing of original sin or sinful nature that's passed on from Adam. I personally don't agree with that. And I just want to give my reasons why. So let's just read off the psalm real quick. Psalm 51:5. David says, "Behold, I was brought forth in iniquity, and in sin did my mother conceive me." All right. So this Psalm 51, it actually starts out by saying, "Creating me a clean heart." That's the topic of it. To the choir master, a psalm of David when Nathan the prophet went to him after he had gone into Bathsheba. So this is after King David did that famous thing that he did that a lot of people, I believe, are aware of. But he basically slept with Bathsheba, who was not his wife, and he ended up having a lot of people killed over it. Just generalizing the story, but basically, David here is more than apologetic about it, and he's praying to God. And so I want to start off by saying, okay, if you're going to take this as a literal thing, um, it says, "Behold, I was brought forth in iniquity, and in sin did my mother conceive me." So his mom apparently maybe conceived him uh, in some sinful nature, and that maybe that's all he's talking about. And the reason why, because David had two half sisters. And the father was not Jesse, but Nahash, if I'm pronouncing that right, who was an Ammonite king. David's father was Jesse. Nahash showed much toward David. David's mother was most likely the second wife of Jesse, and the first wife of Jesse would have been considered superior to his second wife. This would explain why David's half-brothers viewed themselves as superior to David. You can find that in 1 Samuel 17:28 through 30. And this may also explain why David was not called before Samuel among the other sons, as he was possibly viewed as an illegitimate child. All right, so that's something I kind of put as a note here. You can look at 1 Samuel 16:11 and go check that out. That's where I'm referencing that from. So this all would suggest that King David's mom did conceive him in sin. It doesn't mean that David was born with a sinful nature. Okay, and so and again, David is very apologetic in this. So David's basically telling God, "Hey, even the circumstances of my birth, okay, were sinful." He's even saying, "Hey, I'm trying to correct behavior here." And so that would be one thing to consider when he's saying that in Psalms 51:5. What is he talking about there? Is he trying to make you understand that he was born with a sinful nature? Or is he just simply trying to make you understand the circumstances that surrounded uh, his birth and saying that in this psalm, which all psalms are mostly figurative language anyway. All right, so now another thing I want to say is, if you're going to take King David here as saying, he was created in iniquity, he was given a sinful nature and all that, then there, to me, that causes problems. All right, here's some of the main reasons for that. I'll just read off a few scriptures that to me say the total opposite of that. Okay, Psalms 100 verse 3, it says, "Know that Yahweh, He is God. It is He who made us, and we are His. We are His people and the sheep of His pasture." So it says, it is He who made us. So Yahweh made you. Are you willing or prepared to say that the holy, holy, holy Yahweh created you sinful? Job 33:4, "The Spirit of God has made me, and the breath of the Almighty gives me life. So there it is again. The Spirit of God has made, that's Job talking. The Spirit of God has made him, and the breath of the Almighty gives him life. So there it is again. Psalm 119:73, which the Psalms were, as we know, almost completely written by David. I think there's some that weren't, but almost all of them written by David. Psalm 119:73, your hands have made and have fashioned me. And it goes on to say, give me understanding that I may learn your commandments. So, just look at that. It's saying that your hands have made and fashioned me. Okay? That's King David saying, your hands have made and fashioned me, talking to God. So he's saying God created him. So are we saying that God created King David sinful? Is that what David is trying to tell you in Psalm 51? Or is it just that that's what you're choosing to see in Psalm 51, particularly verse 5? Let's move on. Psalm 139:13. For you formed my inward parts. You wove me in my mother's womb. I will give thanks to you, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Wonderful are your works, and my soul knows it very well. That is very explicit. That is very much saying that God has a great deal to do. You can't even say a great deal to do. He has everything to do with your creation. All right. Yeah, you might have the act of sex that takes place, but the soul is given by God and everything about that. So you're not born a sinner. All right. You're born the way God wanted you to be, and you choose to go on and sin later. And that's one thing that bothers me about original sin is that I feel like a lot of these false doctrines have a common denominator, and that is it excuses bad behavior. And that's something, or excuses sinful behavior or wicked behavior, whatever you like to refer to it as. I'll move on to Jeremiah 1:5. Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. And before you were born, I consecrated you and appointed you a prophet to the nations. So there it is again. Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Who formed him? Yahweh. And Zechariah 12:1. Thus declares Yahweh, who stretched out the heavens and founded the earth, and formed the spirit of man within him. So there it is again, God claiming to have something directly to do with the creation. So I'll conclude with that. All I want to say going back to Psalm 1:5 is read that in context. Just let it be what it's saying. All right, he's saying, behold, I was brought forth in iniquity, and in sin did my mother conceive me. And all he's talking about is what happened with his mom and how his birth came to be. And he's using that as an example to say to God, hey, I'm trying to correct all these things in the world that are sinful. And this is something where he knows what he did with Bathsheba was dreadfully wrong. And to me, he's basically in a hyperbole kind of deal here. He's saying, even my mom's birth was sinful. Even the thing that brought me here, she conceived that in a sinful manner because, like I say, it was iniquity that he was brought forth in because she was not married at the time. All right, so just leave it in context. You don't have to sit there and take this one passage and say, there's the teaching. Here's the teaching of the sin nature of man, the fact that man was given the sinful nature. It's right here. And it's in Psalm, because it's not saying it itself. If someone explains to me what sinful nature is, Psalm 51:5 is not going to say the same thing. They're going to tell me how because of Adam and, we're passed down with the sinful nature and we can't help but to sin. And some would even say that they were born, we're already sinners and we're guilty. But none of that is in Psalm 51:5. All Psalm 51:5 says is, behold, I was brought forth in iniquity, and in sin did my mother conceive me. If I said that about my mother, okay, let's say it was the same case with my mother, and let's say I said that. I said, behold, I was brought forth in iniquity, and in sin my mother conceived me. Are you really going to take that I'm trying to teach someone that they have a sinful nature, and I was born with a sinful nature, and that's the reason why I did this thing with Bathsheba, was because, hey, I was born this way, and God made me that way, because all these other passages in the Bible say that God has something directly to do with the creation of man and my soul and my inward parts, as it says. So consider that. Is that a consistent message? Is that really what David is trying to tell you? And I think if you're being honest, you'll figure out that it's not. So I'll leave with that. Just want to say thanks to everybody that watched, whether you agreed or not. Shalom. God bless.